Hello everybody and welcome to my channel, 100% Pure Elvis. Thank you all for taking the time out to return to my channel today. It's most appreciated. And if you are new to the 100% Pure Elvis channel, welcome, and I hope you enjoy this upload. Many of my subscribers will be aware that I'm filming somewhere different today. I am filming in my dining room, and what you see behind me is a wall unit which is quite tall, and that is where I store my Elvis Presley vinyl. So I thought I'd do it somewhere different today. Before I get started, I just want to say a massive shout out to CJ at CJ's Den for mentioning my channel on his latest upload. It is most appreciated, CJ. So please, everyone, check out CJ's channel, CJ's Den. What I'm talking about today is something very different. I'm going to be talking about Elvis Presley albums that did not reach the UK top 10 albums charts in the UK. And this is during Elvis Presley's lifetime. So his first album was issued in 1956 all the way up to 1977. The albums that I'm going to talk you through did not reach the UK top 10 albums chart. And again, some of them you'll be quite shocked about. And again, I won't go through the track listing. I won't go through the catalogue numbers if you don't mind. It will just take far too long. What I'm going to talk about is what number it peaked at, what year it was issued, and how many weeks it stayed in the UK albums chart. And again, the information I am sharing with you all is from the official charts company website in the United Kingdom, where it shares all the information about every single artist that has entered the UK singles chart and albums chart. So shall we make a start? So believe it or not, the first album that did not reach the UK top 10 albums chart, so that did not reach the top 10, was the soundtrack to Roustabout. So Roustabout was issued in 1965, peaked at number 12 in the UK albums chart, and spent 4 weeks on the albums chart. Again, I was quite shocked to read that. And again, absolutely stunning. I love the soundtrack to Roustabout. So again, it's a bit of a shock that it didn't reach the UK top 10. A peak of number 12 in 1965, spent 4 weeks on the albums chart. The next one is Flaming Star and Summer Kisses. Again, this is from 1965. It just missed out on the top 10. It peaked at number 11 in 1965 and spent 4 weeks. This is quite rare now to pick up. Great image of Elvis there from Flaming Star. And on the back, your track listing and again, just the title. Again, please don't forget, all of these albums that I'm sharing with you, I have done individual reviews on. So just please return to my channel if you want separate reviews on any of these, and you'll find them. If you can't, please let me know in the comments below, and I'm more than happy to share a review again with you. Now, the next one from 1966 is Harum Holiday, otherwise known as Harum Scarum. It's not one of my favorite movies, but I absolutely love the soundtrack to Harum Holiday from 1966. It just missed out on the top 10, a peak of number 11 for 5 weeks in 1966. I love the soundtrack to Harum Scarum, actually, or Harum Holiday. And again, what's your thoughts on the soundtrack? It's not my favorite movie, but I do like the soundtrack. Harum Holiday, a peak of number 11, 1966, 5 weeks. I just need to take a bit of a drink of my coffee. As you can see, it's in my Elvis Aloha from Hawaii mug. The next one, again, is an album I do not have in my collection, unfortunately. So in the list that I'm sharing with you, there is only 2 albums that I don't have in my collection. So after Harum Holiday, his next album that didn't reach the UK top 10 was the soundtrack to Frankie and Johnny, which was issued in 1966, and it reached a peak again of number 11. So again, just missed out on the top 10, and it spent 5 weeks in the UK albums chart. I'm sorry, I don't own that. I actually thought I owned Frankie and Johnny. So next time I see it, it's going to have to be added to my collection. The next one, California Holiday. as you can see, there's a familiar pattern with the soundtrack albums. California Holiday, a 1966 issue, a peak of number 17, and it stayed in the UK albums chart for 6 weeks. I think it's an enjoyable movie, and a movie that I don't tend to watch a great deal, but I love the bonus songs on California Holiday. So peak of number 17 in 1966 for 6 weeks. The next one is possibly the first one that I'm quite shocked that didn't reach the top 10. How Great Thou Art from 1967. It spent 14 weeks in the UK albums chart in 1967 with a peak of number 11, just missed out on that top 10. Quite shocked at that. Such a great gospel album from Elvis, wasn't it? Elvis could sing all types of music. How Great Thou Art, number 11 in 1967, 14 weeks. The next one is another soundtrack album from 1967, and it's to my least favourite Elvis movie, Double Trouble. So Double Trouble only reached number 34 in 1967 and only stayed in the chart for one solitary week. I can actually understand why. I think the movie is very weak. I think the soundtrack is quite weak. I prefer the bonus songs on this album. Again, maybe I'm giving it too much of a hard time, but again, I just do not like the movie. But the soundtrack as well, I think it's quite weak, but I do like the bonus tracks. I think by the time 66, 67 came around, I think maybe people were slightly losing interest in Elvis's music releases. So again, as we are all aware, what was around the corner in 1968, Double Trouble, peak of number 34 in 1967, 1 week in the chart. The next one, again, is a movie soundtrack album, The Clambake. So from 1968, a peak of number 39, one solitary week. Most of the albums that I'm sharing with you, some of them are reissues. So please, in the comments below, don't tell me, sorry, that's not an original. I know they're not. Some of these are reissues. Clambake, number 39 in 1968, one solitary week. Again, it's a movie I don't tend to watch a great deal, but again, I prefer the bonus songs on Clambake. 39 in 1968, 1 week. Sorry, I'm just reading a list here. The next one is a compilation album from 1970, A Portrait in Music. And this reached a peak of number 36 in 1970, one solitary week in the UK albums chart. I love the back, showcasing all of the Elvis albums that you could purchase, most of them soundtrack albums. But again, track listing, this is a gatefold, only consists of one album, but a beautiful gatefold in the middle. So A Portrait in Music, 36, 1970, 1 week. The next one is the one and only box set during Elvis Presley's lifetime that reached the UK albums chart. Worldwide 50 Gold Award Hits Volume 1. This peaked at number 49 in 1970 and stayed in the chart for 2 weeks. I think that's quite good actually for a box set back in 1970. So worldwide 50 Gold Awards Volume 1, a peak of number 49 in 1970, 2 weeks. Now the next one is possibly the one I'm more shocked at more than ever. It's my favourite all-time Elvis Presley album. That's the Way It Is, a 1971 issue. It peaked at number 12, but stayed in the UK albums chart for 36 weeks. Everything about this album for me is perfection. It's my favourite all-time Elvis album. It's my favourite all-time Elvis front cover image of Elvis. I just think I love the design. obviously this is a reissue, and I love the back as well. All these different images of Elvis on the back as well. I just love everything about this album. So that's the way it is. A peak of number 12 in 1971, 36 weeks. The next one from 1971 is a budget release of You'll Never Walk Alone. It peaked at number 20, believe it or not. So again, I think that's quite good for a budget album back in 1971. And it stayed in the chart for 4 weeks. I love this jumpsuit here on the front. I don't know what that jumpsuit's called. I just love the red star thing coming down on Elvis. And on the back, you've got your track listing and like Jim Reeves' album, Mario Lanza, etc. You'll Never Walk Alone, 1971, a peak of number 20, 4 weeks in the chart. The next one, again, is a budget release from 1971. There's quite a few albums that were issued in 1971. It is called Almost in Love. And Almost in Love reached a peak of number 38 in 1971 and spent 2 weeks on the chart. Great image of Elvis here from the 1968 special. On the back, in concert, is that maybe 1970, I believe, with the track listing top right. Don't forget, if anyone wants the catalogue numbers for any of these, please return to my channel or ask in the comments below and I'll get them catalogue numbers to you. Almost in Love, a peak of number 38 in 1971, 2 weeks. The next one, again, is an album that I'm quite shocked didn't reach the top 10. 1972, Elvis Now, and it peaked at number 12 and it spent 8 weeks in the UK albums chart. So again, great image of Elvis here from the front here, and on the back showcasing the Gold Awards 1 and 2 and the rainbow effect with the track listing, Elvis Now. And I do like Elvis Now. It's a good album. A number 12 peak in the UK albums chart in 1972, 8 weeks. The next one is another gospel album from 1972, He Touched Me. And this reached number 38 in 1972 and spent 3 weeks in the UK albums chart. And I love this jumpsuit as well. I can't remember what it's called. Like, is it the red leather at the top? And I know it's a black jumpsuit. And let me get closer in there if anyone could help. And I just, again, I love everything about this gospel album. All 3 gospel albums I absolutely love. So you've got How Great Thou Art, His Hand in Mine. Absolutely. Such a stunning album. He Touched Me, a peak of number 38 in 1972, spent 3 weeks on the UK albums chart. The next one, right, if anyone could help with this, I'd be most appreciated. Elvis Raised on Rock. Now, when I was checking the official charts website in the UK, I could not find this album in his discography of Elvis Presley albums. So again, I don't think this reached the UK top 10 albums chart. So if anyone could help with that in the comments below as to where this peaked at, I'd be more than happy and I'd appreciate it. So again, Elvis Raised on Rock, or otherwise known as For Old Time's Sake. Now, the next one, again, so I was just trying to think, where have I got to? Sorry, I've got to go back a couple. After Almost in Love, there's one album that there's another album I don't have in my collection, and the album in question is called I Got Lucky. And I Got Lucky, again, was a budget release. I'm sorry. As you can see, I've got a bit of a tickly throat at the moment. So after the release of Almost in Love in 1971, there was another budget release called I Got Lucky, and that peaked at number 26 in 1971, and it stayed in the UK albums chart for 3 weeks. So out of the list that I'm sharing with you, there's 25 in this list. I've got 23 of the releases. So the two that I don't have is Frankie and Johnny and I Got Lucky, the budget release from 1971. So let's carry on with where I got up to. Again, the next one, I'm so shocked. I mean, I automatically assumed this would have been a top 10 album all day long, but it just missed out on the top 10, believe it or not. Aloha from Hawaii from 1973. It peaked at number 11 in 1973 and stayed in the chart for 10 weeks. Really shocked about that. The hype around the concert and the release and everything. Again, I'd love to see your comments below as to why you think Aloha from Hawaii via satellite didn't reach the UK top 10. Obviously, just missed out the top 10 by peaking at number 11. But personally, I think this should have been a top 10 album all day long. So Aloha from Hawaii, 1973 release, peaked at number 11, 10 weeks in the UK albums chart. Now, the next one, simply titled Elvis, otherwise known as the Fool album. I always just call it Elvis, but some people know it as the Fool album. Elvis, again, was a 1973 release and peaked at number 16. I absolutely love this album. I've said in one of my uploads previously, when I did my least to favourite albums from the 1970s, I think this got lost along the way after the release of Aloha from Hawaii. And again, with it being a studio album, you know, I think it's a beautiful album. And they used an image from Aloha from Hawaii on the front. And I just think it got lost in the way. But there's some people that absolutely just do not like this album. I love this album. Number 16 in 1973, 4 weeks on the albums chart. Elvis, otherwise known as the Fool album. So I did show you the back. There's the back. And the next one is the volume 1 of Elvis, a Legendary Performer. And this is from 1974, peaked at number 20 and spent 3 weeks on the UK albums chart. Again, an image there from Aloha from Hawaii. So again, I love this set. I've got 1 to 4, I believe. Yeah, I do. 1 to 4 of the Legendary Performer set. And on the reverse, just your track listing. So beautiful album inside. The inside to pull out. Please return to my channel. You will see I've done a thorough review on volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4 of A Legendary Performer. But volume 1 of A Legendary Performer peaked at number 20 in 1974, 3 weeks. The next one is from 1974, and it's a studio album, Good Times. So Good Times peaked at, didn't even reach the top 40, missed out on the top 40 altogether, actually, let alone the top 10. Peaked at number 42 in 1974 for 1 solitary week. Now, let's talk about that. Again, I think this is a great album. What do you think happened in 1974 for this album not to perform better in the United Kingdom? Again, I don't know how it performed in the United States of America. I'm just talking about the UK albums chart. Again, was it the fact that it didn't have many hit singles on it and it wasn't promoted in the UK at the time on TV, maybe? I'm not sure, because as you know, Elvis didn't come to the UK. So again, what did RCA push the album enough in the United Kingdom? But Good Times, peak of number 42 in 1974, 1 solitary week. I'm so shocked about that. Again, great image of Elvis in concert there on the front. Now the next one, again, it's another one I'm quite shocked at, actually, and it's from 1974, live on stage. Sorry, recorded live on stage in Memphis. Peaked at number 44, believe it or not. Again, didn't even reach the UK top 40 albums chart, let alone the top 10 in 1974. One solitary week. I just can't get over that. This is such a great live album from Elvis. Again, I believe, did RCA not push it enough? And on the back, so it's got your Graceland Gates and Graceland on the front. Such a superb front and back cover. But again, was there too many Elvis Presley releases for the fans to buy, and they could only afford certain ones? Could that be a reason as well? Recorded live on stage in Memphis, a 1974 album, peaked at number 44 for one solitary week. Now, the next one is, again, it was one of my favourites from the 1970s, from 1975, Promised Land. Promised Land was a peak of number 21 in 1975, spent 4 weeks on the UK albums chart. A great image of Elvis there on the front. Is that from 74, 75? I think that's possibly from 74, isn't it? Please correct me if I'm wrong. Many of my subscribers will be well aware. I love the Elvis font. I just love this here. I love the lettering of Elvis from the 1970s. Quite weird about that sort of stuff. And on the back, again, promoting 4 other Elvis Presley releases. And your track listing, Promised Land, a peak of number 21 in 1975, 4 weeks. 3 more to go. The next one, again, is a studio album from 1975, Today. Oh, it has to be one of my favourites from the 1970s. It's got my all-time favourite Elvis song on it, Bringing It Back. I love I Can Help. And Woman Without Love. Oh, it's just such a superb album. Today only reached number 48, believe it or not. But it stayed in the chart for 3 weeks. Again, I don't know what RCA were doing at the time. Again, was it the fact that there was no hit singles off this album at the time? Because I Can Help was released after Elvis's passing. Trouble just scraped into the top 40 singles chart in the UK. But again, I love that image of Elvis again on the front. And on the back, showcasing more Elvis Presley album releases at the bottom here. I've got all of these. But I think that's so disappointing. Number 48 in 1975. 3 solitary weeks in the UK albums chart. The next, it's just such a corker of an album. Second but last studio album from Elvis Presley Boulevard, Memphis, Tennessee. And this is from 1976. Peaked at number 29 in the UK albums chart. So getting better in regards to his peak positions with his studio albums in 1976, and it stayed in the UK albums chart for 5 weeks. So better than his previous few albums that he had released. So again, I think it's down to the single releases. Hurt, absolutely such a great song. We all know that was released, and again, that made the UK top 40 singles chart. My favourite on this album, everyone will know, it's The Last Farewell. Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, obviously Hurt, Love Coming Down, Bitter They Are, Harder They Fall. So again, from Elvis Presley Boulevard, Memphis, Tennessee, a 1976 album, a peak of number 29, 5 weeks in the albums chart. And the last album that reached the UK albums chart in Elvis's lifetime, Elvis in Demand from 1977, it peaked at number 12 in the UK albums chart, and it stayed in the albums chart for 12 weeks, believe it or not. So that is really good. And I actually love the design on the front here, the gold Elvis here at the top, and the image of Elvis there, as you know, is like an art one, isn't it? And I think that's very well done. And on the back, I just love the fact that under each of the songs, it tells you information about the song itself. So Elvis in Demand peaked at number 12 in 1977 and stayed in the albums chart for 12 weeks. So I really wanted to share that with you all, because I was looking at the information today on the official charts company website, and I really thought, let me look down and look at Elvis Presley album releases that didn't reach the top 10 album charts in the UK. First thing that I thought about was, I was actually quite shocked at how many did not reach the top 10, because Elvis, with him being a prolific recording artist and a prolific seller of music, Elvis was the best-selling recordist artist in his day. So again, what was going wrong in the mid-1970s up to 75 with his studio albums not performing that well? And I think mid-1960s, you're looking at his soundtrack albums. You've got California Holiday, Double Trouble, Clambake, again, really struggled in the UK albums chart, because I think at that time, the movies that Elvis was doing were, I think he was going through the motions. And again, I think people were listening to newer music. Let's not mention who. I think we all know what group came along and started a new wave of music, shall we say. And people tended to not buy Elvis at that time. And then after the 1968 special, it all started again for Elvis, and that needed to happen, in my opinion. If that 1968 TV special would not have happened, I dread to think where Elvis would have gotten in the 1970s. I think it would have been more movies, personally. I don't think Elvis would have had it in him to come out of the movies. But what's your opinion? I mean, I know he was contracted up to 1969 with his movie contract. So again, maybe he would have stood firm with the Colonel and said, no, I want to go back to live performing. And talking about the albums from the mid-70s, I think the one that shocks me first and foremost is possibly, the one that shocks me the most is That's the Way It Is, which is my favourite Elvis album. Again, it only just missed the UK top 10 albums chart at number 12, but it did stay in the chart for 36 weeks. That is a good innings. And again, for a strong album from Elvis at that time, after coming off the back of his return to the live stage, I was quite shocked at reading that didn't reach the top 10. And then I suppose you got to talk about Aloha from Hawaii. Again, just missed out that top 10, didn't it? Peaking at number 11. And then, I can kind of understand about Elvis from 1973, because I think it lost its way behind Aloha from Hawaii. Good Times from 1974, in my personal opinion, there wasn't any strong singles off the album, was there at all? And probably RCA didn't push the album enough. I don't think you can blame Elvis at all for any of this. I mean, because Elvis had such a huge fan base, especially in the United Kingdom. But if the albums are not promoted well enough from RCA itself, then again, they're not going to perform as well. And the live album, Live on Stage in Memphis, number 44, that when you listen to that album, oh God, it's superb. recorded live on stage in Memphis. You know, I was talking to CJ from CJ's Den on the phone a couple of nights ago, and we were talking about Aloha from Hawaii, the alternate Aloha, and we were talking about, is Aloha from Hawaii Elvis Presley's best concert? You know, in my personal opinion, my favorite Elvis concert is the rehearsal concert from Aloha. It is closely followed by recorded live on stage in Memphis, and then you're possibly looking at the 68 special. But again, live on stage, recorded live on stage in Memphis, only peaking at number 44 for 1 week. I think that's a travesty. Today, which is a great album from 1975, number 48, 3 weeks on the UK albums chart. So as I'm looking down this list, his studio albums, not his soundtrack albums, his studio albums, today was the studio album that was the lowest peaking in the albums chart. And I think it's such a strong album. What's your belief on that? And again, that you're going back to his last but one album from Elvis Presley, Boulevard, Memphis, Tennessee, getting back into the top 30, peaking at number 29 for 5 weeks. Again, 5 weeks does not sound a long time, does it? But then obviously Moody Blue, his last studio album, you know, top 10 album, sadly passed away, stayed in the charts for weeks on end. So again, I really hope you enjoyed that list that I've just shared with you, and I hope you enjoyed looking at the vinyl with me. So going back to them two that I didn't have in my collection, so Frankie and Johnny from 1966, and also I Got Lucky from 1971. Of all of them, they are the only two in this list that I do not own. I believe it or not, you know, because I've got a vast collection of Elvis vinyl, I actually thought that I had Frankie and Johnny on vinyl, and I just can't find it. You know what? I'll probably look tomorrow and I'll probably find it. But getting prepared for this upload, I just couldn't find it. I know I don't have I Got Lucky. Again, I know I've seen the album. Did I think I had it in my collection? I'm not too sure. But again, look, I just want to say before I sign out, I'm really sorry for not being able to do the live link tonight at 8 o'clock as promised. I had quite a hectic day at work today, and I was really tired. And when I came home, I really wanted to give it 100%. And if I can't give it 100%, then it's something that I will always relook at doing. So I have rescheduled it for next Saturday at 8 p.m. because next Saturday I'm not at work. I'm off all day. I can give myself quality time to get set up, to get the topics set up, and then we can all talk about our love of Elvis and everything else. And if you are new to my channel, but you haven't as yet subscribed, please think about subscribing. You'd be more than welcome to the 100% Pure Elvis family. And again, a massive shout out to each and every one of my subscribers who have supported me along the way. And to all of my new subscribers, thank you very much for joining the 100% Pure Elvis family. Before I sign out, please keep Elvis close to your hearts. Please keep on playing his music. That's most important to me. Love you all. Speak soon, everybody. Bye-bye.